Do you like playing daring characters? Or characters that just seek fame amongst a community of other like-minded people fighting for those who cannot fend for themselves? Known by many as the loud, boisterous, and often ostentatious fools. Welcome to the Firebrands video, part of the What the Faction series, here on Cardinal Adventures. Founded in 4716 AR, the Firebrands are a culmination of different members from the Silver Ravens of Ravanal and the Vidrix from the newfound country of Vidrian. The core ideals of the Firebrands are liberation and assistance to the downtrodden. Unfortunately, the public has viewed them as bombastic exhibitionists ever since their founding. And initially, the Firebrands attempted to disassociate from that reputation, but they eventually embraced the daredevil reputation they had been given. The Firebrands are split into two groups: the Liberators, who are those that fight actively against tyranny and assist refugees. The other group doesn't really have a formal nickname or name, so we will call them the public relations side of the Firebrands. These are the show-offs, the thrill seekers of the Firebrands. But that doesn't go without saying that a member can't participate in both activities of either group. They can do either one or both, or focus on one. One does not simply join the Firebrands, but becoming a member is quite an interesting process. You must publicly announce your desire to join in a showmanship or showy manner. Doing so will earn you your first mark. Quick Cardinal tip: this is a wonderful starting point for a character's backstory. Someone who is trying to earn their second mark within the Firebrands. The second mark is typically awarded internally within the organization, and after gaining enough local fame, a member can earn their third mark. Based on the progression of the Firebrand Archetype, which we will cover later in this video, I myself would interpret this to take place when a PC selects an 8th level Firebrands Archetype feat. The fourth mark is the highest title one can earn within the Firebrands. At this point, most of the members of the Firebrands either know you or know of your exploits and your daring deeds across most of the region, or even most of Galarian. I would interpret this to take place when a PC with the Firebrand Archetype reaches 12th level and has remained true to their Firebrand theme. Something of note about characters earning their mark: many Firebrands never even earn their second mark. So feel free to spice up how it was earned, get creative, or GM work with your player on making that come to life and it being extravagant. It is also important to understand, though, that just because you've earned your second, third, or even fourth mark, that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want within the organization. Committing acts of anathema can result in the removal of a mark, marks, or worse, the removal from the Firebrands. Acts of anathema within the Firebrands include aiding oppressive regimes, hurting innocents, and interrupting or sabotaging others during their adventures or deeds. Though the Firebrands are a newer organization, this sigil has quickly become a symbol that has caused entire rebellions to topple over places ruled by tyranny. Now, of course, this symbol can be a double-edged sword. In the wrong places, people will deny you amenities, a place to stay, or even entrance to their settlement due to the Firebrand's rebellious nature and symbolism. Now, before we get into my take on the Firebrand's options, items, and archetype, we have to cover one more topic: clothing. I can see your faces already. Calm down. Clothing? unless you're doing some sort of clandestine or subterfuge operation. Your clothing should be as boisterous and daring and as adventurous as you are. Find creative ways to differentiate yourself from other Firebrands members who are also trying to get their name out there. Go wild. Okay. Maybe not that wild. Or maybe? Moving on, we have the Firebrand skill feats. Backup disguise is great for those characters who prefer subterfuge. Instead of taking 10 minutes to use the impersonate activity and changing into a disguise, you are able to wear a disguise underneath your regular current clothes, allowing you to impersonate with only 3 actions. If you're a master in deception, 2. And of course, if you're legendary, 1. Next, we have So Rumor. This is one of the most underappreciated skill feats in the game, in my opinion. Granted, this is only a feat that can really get its best use from adventures or adventure paths or campaigns, scenarios, etc. that involve a lot of political intrigue or downtime, or social encounters or social activity. I would typically use this to win over a faction by putting down the reputation of another, or for in-faction fighting, or infighting within a faction, and all other sorts of great uses for it. But again, it really only does shine from a social aspect, so if your table isn't really big on that, I wouldn't even consider this. But other than that, it's a great skill feat. Lastly, we have the Entourage skill feat. If a player or players want to engage in having followers or starting their own organization, I would highly recommend the Reputation or the Leadership subsystems in the Game Master Guide. They both utilize the scaled feeling of 2nd Edition, but I would not recommend running both subsystems simultaneously as a GM. It is a lot to keep track of. Onward to the Firebrand Items. Now, I know there's a lot of GMs out there who don't believe in limiting the items that players can obtain. I truly believe that having items which can only be obtained through certain factions and organizations make them stand out more and feel more unique, as well as that those player characters who have invested all of those feats and archetype to reflect those decisions. They should be handsomely rewarded and should stand out from others who did not. Not to say that one style of playing is better than another. I just think that if you're going to be a Firebrand, you should be able to go to a town where you could purchase items and be able to get Firebrand things if you've unlocked that access. And other players should not, because their decisions in their characters did not lead in that direction, and they should not have that. But either way, that's my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. The first item is the Cloak of Repute. Diplomacy checks to make an impression, make requests, are both improved based on the item level of the cloak, as well as having an active feature. Just a great item overall. Next, the Insistent Door Knocker. You can attach it to a lock to help you pick it. Or you can attach it to a wall, floor, or ceiling and have it create a usable door within that surface. How much surface it can penetrate is based on the item level, but what a useful item! Wonderful, wonderful. Next, the Snap Leaf. This is a talisman that allows you to turn invisible and featherfall when you begin to fall. Whoever wrote this was definitely a fan of Ghost in the Shell. It's okay, don't feel bad, whoever wrote this. It's my favorite anime too. Lastly, the Unmemorable Mantle. Not much to remember, because it modifies your memories. That's right, as long as you're impersonating an individual, you can activate the Mantle's clasp to attempt altering the creature's last 5 minutes they spent with you. And yes, that's creatures with an apostrophe after the S, meaning that all the creatures you interacted with. Well, I hear you, I hear you. This could be a huge backfire, double-edged sword. But if you're impersonating a boss, like some sort of gang boss, and you're talking to the goons, or minions, or just plain commoners, which are usually going to be lower level than you, this item is awesome. If you have made it this far in the video and you are new here, or not subbed, you know what to do. We have arrived to the all-awaited Firebrand Archetype. This archetype is for all those braggarts out there who just love showing off for everybody. And it isn't just for swashbucklers. Don't be narrow-minded. The name of the dedication is even technically called the Firebrand Braggart Dedication, which is very, very fitting. Notice the prerequisites that I was mentioning earlier. You need to have your second mark within the Firebrands. And unlike most lower level dedications, you actually need to be level 4 to acquire this dedication. You get a +1 circumstance bonus, which is also the same as a standard aid bonus, to a specific skill action for the next 10 minutes if you've previously succeeded and tried to brag about that skill action. And don't limit yourself to combat. You can boast about how amazing you are at climbing or swimming or anything that could be utilized outside of combat. You try to boast about it, and if you do well, you get a boost. It's wonderful. Next, the Boaster's Challenge. This is a wonderful feat for those who really want to tilt their enemies. And it doesn't have to be intimidation. It's wonderful. It can be deception or diplomacy as well, which makes this feat extremely versatile. Because based on your proficiency of the skill, and which you're most likely going to be improving anyways, you gain a scaling damage bonus to your damage rolls. So a bonus to your damage rolls until the end of your next turn. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Next, Daring Act. This is a wonderful way to close the distance on an enemy who you know has an attack of opportunity, or AOO. At low level, it may not seem that powerful, but in many adventure paths or stories or long-term campaigns, it is most likely that you will fight creatures who are large or huge or even gargantuan. And most of those creatures have AOOs, or attacks of opportunity. This is when that feat really shines, so always good to have in your back pocket. Next, Bravo's Determination. Your confidence borders on self-delusion. That's straight from the book. Yeah, it's pretty much true. You can attempt to deceive your enemy that they didn't even get you to 0 hit points and remain standing. Pretty awesome. Next, Great Boaster. Basically, this is an enhanced version of the base dedication's ability, causing it to last until your next daily preparations instead of 10 minutes, along with the ability to upgrade that boast to a Great Boast, increasing its circumstance bonus to a +2 instead of a +1. Next, Daring Flourish. As part of a successful Daring Act, you get to make a melee strike or a disarm attempt as part of those 2 actions. This is just a great action economy boost you get here. Next, Demanding Challenge. If you went the route of the Tilter, or the Boaster's Challenge, this upgrades that challenge feature. If you succeed against the target, they take a -1 circumstance penalty, or -2 on critical success, to all of their attack rolls until the end of your next turn. Do I even need to talk about how amazing that is? Talk about, if they're enfeebled, if they're frightened, if they're sickened, if you fill it in, if they're already taking minuses to their attack rolls and stuff. This is amazing. And last but not least, Daredevil's Gambit. If you critically succeed using a Daring Act, you can share the target's space with them. Now, why in the hell would I want to do that, Liam? Well, let me tell you why. You get a +2 circumstance bonus to your AC, which is equivalent of raising a steel shield or a better shield than that, which is awesome. Oh, and in case that wasn't enough, if any other creature, other than the target in which you're sharing space with, hits you with an attack roll, they have to roll a DC 15 flat check, or they end up hitting the creature that you're sharing space with. That means they only have a 25% chance to hit you. So when fighting a larger creature, I can only imagine and think about mounting a creature in Monster Hunter World. Am I alone in this visualization? This is awesome. Thank you for listening to my take on the Firebrands faction. Would you consider playing a character that is affiliated with the Firebrands? GMs. Perhaps a pirate campaign, where most of the PCs are members of the Firebrands. Players, again, challenge yourselves. Now, I know I talk a lot about champions and clerics, but, if you were, let's say you were in this pirate campaign, pirates are usually seen as martial characters. Challenge yourself, think of a champion or cleric of this. Caden Kayleen, Besmara. I mean, they'd be all about it. Either way, just think about it. It'd be really, really cool. In terms of uploading my videos, I've decided I'm going to be uploading them now on Sundays around this time. But until then, I will see you all in the next video. Take it easy.